kind of staring down like, well, some very like dark life choices of like, well, what am I going to do with myself? Because I haven't got a degree and I don't have a job. I was working for a company doing phone like fixed phone line installations. Just sort of doing like trying to learn a trade. And then I got a call from my uncle who said who knew I was like I used to write code and I've been writing code since I was 9 years old and messing around whatever. And so he then said he's got this scripting job that he needs someone on for 4 months and they don't have anybody. And of course I said yes. I was 19 years old and I had like literally nothing else. And thanks to him, thanks to my uncle giving me that chance, I was able to like launch my career. And so I started. I went down. I went to work at this bank as a contractor, scripting for 4 months. Managed to get on as permanent, and things took off from there.
So thank you
So
for joining us today, Luke. Pleasure to see you again. And to get straight into it, could you please give us a snapshot of your career, what exactly it is you do from sort of start to now?
yeah, sure, awesome, Kane. Thanks so much for having me, and it's really awesome that we got to chat. And I've looked forward to us having a chat again because we have so much in common in terms of our starting journeys. And yeah, just great to see you again. So yeah,
Thank you.
for me, where I am right now, my role is head of engineering at Caratage. Caratage is a prop fund based in London, but working globally. We invest in teams building in all sorts of interesting spaces, such as crypto, blockchain, investments in space technology, and more recently, AI and robotics and fintech and DeFi and kind of everything in between. So
Mhm.
we're a small, very flat organization that likes to move quickly. We look for good opportunities. We like to work in a very agile way. So
Mhm.
this means short paths to decisions, quickly jumping onto opportunities, working with our network, building relationships with the people we invest in, and then looking into those networks to look at signals for what's coming next. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, as you can probably tell, like there's as we've all seen, there's been a huge move in the crypto space to sort of overlap with AI and the whole
Yeah.
concept of having, for example, agents need to wanting to do things autonomously, and to do
Yeah.
that they've got to be able to pay their way. And so crypto provides a nice overlap for that use case, for example. So
Mhm.
those are the kinds of things we look for. And yeah, so that's sort of right now in my day. Um, it's a whole bunch of things: looking after infrastructure, doing technical due diligence on prospective investments that come my way,
Mhm.
working with the team to break down and understand these things as well, and then yeah, looking at the landscape, trying to understand it, trying to figure out like where that next unicorn is going to come from, and where we see things going, how things develop. So
When
yeah.
doing your due diligence and looking into new projects, what excites you? Is there a time when you look into something and you realize, oh, this could be really good? Think there's a time or a moment in the process that you think, oh, hold on, this is the one.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question. So to answer your question, there is that moment where you go like, "Wow, okay, this is something," and it comes from one of three places. And I'm by no means an expert. This is just talking from my experience. And there are people who've been doing it a lot longer than me. But from my experience, it's three things. It's team. So when we see a good, strong team with good, with like a strong vision, strong drive, and a hunger to build and to take what they've got in their minds and make it like a real life thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a there's a lot to be said about the energy behind that, and you can really sense it. Then it's products. Like, what are they building? Is it a valid product? Does it make sense in the market? Can we see, do we see competitors building a similar thing? Competitors building a product and coming to the market with another option for an existing product
Hmm.
means that the market has a place, has a like there's a place on the shelf that's been carved out, and
Hmm.
so it often is a good way to prove that your thesis is validated by saying, well, there are other people also doing this,
There's already a
and
market for it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it isn't always true that the first to the market is the winner, but it is always true that the first to the market pays the marketing fees because they've got to
Okay.
educate all the customers, they've got to
Yeah.
educate all of the suppliers, and
Ah, so maybe second to the market is the better position to be in.
exactly.
Actually,
Maybe
yeah,
second.
yeah,
You
yeah,
compare Facebook and Twitter in the early days, and
yeah.
those who will remember Twitter's first product, like Twitter was before that, before X, it was Twitter. Before Twitter, it was Status, and they took just that status update feature from Facebook, from the Facebook timeline, and made
Mm,
that a whole system. And they were definitely not first to market, and nor were Facebook. So
yeah,
there's many examples. But
that's a
yes,
good point.
so team, product, and then the third is the like the fundamentals. Is the amount of capital being raised enough, or is it too little? Is it too much? What's being given in return? So how do we as an organization get value into what's being built? It's not always about 10xing or 20xing an investment. Like, you know what I mean? It's not always just doing a slot pull on a good idea and hoping
Mm,
that you make bank. Often
mhm.
it's backing a thesis that you believe in, and we have things we believe in. Like as an organization, we have things that we believe in that we want to see grow and permeate into the
Mm.
world and become big, and like big bold concepts that are in everyday life. Like we want that
They are
reasons.
the more exciting ones as well because when there's something you really truly believe in, and albeit it may be seen as an underdog, but pushing it through and the belief you carry, the process of that journey is
And sometimes you look at a team that's, oh, sorry.
there's the team.
Might have my dog's going nuts.
The team's arguing.
We've got a new one in the house, and they're sort of like, it's upset the balance a little bit. Oh, I was just going to make the point that like sometimes it's more than like just the product or the pitch or the team or the thing that's being discussed in front of you. Sometimes you look at the founders and you go like, these guys are just made of magic. Like there's just something about this team or this person that I know that they're gonna do something amazing. So we'll back them. We've had
Nice.
instances like that where it doesn't really matter what they build. We know that they're going to like carve something, like they're gonna make a stamp on the
Yeah.
universe, and we want to
Yeah.
be behind them to help them make that
Well,
happen.
so your early career, what did it look like, and how did you find yourself in the industries you was working in?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a like it was actually I had a stroke of luck. So when I left school, I went straight into studying. First started with electronic engineering. Within 2 weeks, I swapped to computer science, and yeah, that was and pretty much failed the year. My first attempt at first year varsity was an absolute flop. Um, and for various reasons, for a whole bunch of reasons. So then I tried again. First year was away. The second year was I tried it again with the varsity that was closer to home. That was also a flop. And it just didn't work. Like I didn't understand parts about myself that were really not like geared for that kind of learning process. And at the time, I just thought I was, like incapable and would never be able to finish a degree. And at the end of that, I was kind of staring down like, well, some very like dark life choices of like, well, what am I going to do with myself? Because I haven't got a degree and I don't have a job. I was working for a company doing phone like fixed phone line installations. Just sort of doing, like trying to learn a trade. And then I got a call from my uncle who said, who knew I was like I used to write code, and I've been writing code since I was 9 years old and messing around, whatever. And so he then said he's got this scripting job that he needs someone on for 4 months, and they don't have anybody. And of course, I said yes. I was 19 years old, and I had like literally nothing else. And thanks to him, thanks to my uncle, giving me that chance.
Yeah.
I was able to like launch my career. And so I started, I went to work at this bank as a contractor, scripting for 4 months, managed to get on as permanent, and things took off from there. So I had a really
Nice.
lucky break, and I'm grateful for it because a lot of people don't get that kind of a chance, and I know that like that really launched my career and gave me the opportunity.
It's
So
a good example of
yeah,
you never know what's round the corner. You didn't realize you was one phone call away from your whole life changing really at that time.
yeah, so true, so
It's
true. I mean,
interesting.
really, that it was that one phone call that changed everything.
Mm.
And sometimes I really feel that, and I really like reflect on that as a almost like, well, if I was given this gift that gave me the life that I've been able to build my life on, there must, it drives me to pay it forward to others in
Yeah.
any way I
You'll be the
can.
one making that phone call to someone else one day.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
it might not even feel like it to you, but the person picking up the phone, it could be a direction change in their life too, like it was for you. So it's nice that you're now in the position to do that. Um, what a beautiful circle. Once you got into your career, was there anything that perhaps didn't go as planned but worked out to be a blessing? I think you find sometimes
yeah.
one job you didn't get led on to actually finding a way better job or maybe personal contact. Was there a point in your career where something at the time felt against you but worked out to be a blessing?
Yeah, yes, definitely. And at the beginning of my career, I was working as a programmer. I was a developer, and I felt like the natural progression was to move into leadership and to run a team. So I could scale by running a team of developers. That was my ambition. So I set out to grow into a senior developer, and then move from that into a team lead that would then look after a product and hire engineers under me and build up a team and own a
Nice.
product. But what I learned, but I learned, well, it was a great idea, but I was terrible at it, and I was an awful leader. Okay, like the first time I gave this go, I was terrible. And I
What
did
made you an
so many,
awful leader? What? Give us an
so many, so
example.
many. Yeah, sure. Textbook stuff. Textbook stuff. Okay, the first one was thinking that because I was senior and the team lead, that I knew better in terms of like technical implementation, and not letting go and allowing my the guys, or, allowing my team to take the reins and own the designs and own this and own that, and like really give them the space and the backing to build and take things
I
to
see.
completion. Instead, I was
Yeah.
trying to like oversee, and I felt almost like, well, I felt entitled to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was terrible. So I had the whole
Mm.
team like almost turned everyone against me because their I was dismissing all of their ideas, their
Yeah.
designs, their
Instead of a manager,
abilities.
maybe you as a headmaster, almost like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And there was no way that like, and so I kept blocking everything in terms of people. I would take the critical piece of work and say, no, no, I'll look after that. And then I would block everybody.
yeah.
And then there would be things that like wouldn't have all the context on decisions because I wasn't delegating properly. Absolute disaster. What I learned from
Okay,
that was that I learned I mean, so from that, I actually then backed out of leadership, and decided I would stay as an individual contributor, and that's my place in life. And like, this was just awful, and I never want to like experience this again. But what I learned, I had the opportunity to come around and be a leader again a few years later. And I led a team called Mobile Services that looked after online payment gateways and banking registration, deposits, withdrawals, and so on for a web for online gaming in the iGaming space. So like casinos and so on. That was a completely different experience, and in that
nice.
experience, I had taken on the approach of being a servant leader. So I would serve my team. I would be the means by which they're unblocked. I would be the way that they get to like fulfill their like maximum satisfaction as engineers, by enabling them in any way I could. blocking things and blocking interruptions, and putting up a putting up boundaries that allow them to thrive, and really worked on that, as
Brilliant to hear. A
yeah,
servant leader. I haven't heard that term before, but it makes complete sense. How nice. What a way to
yeah.
put it. Mm,
Thank you. The way I felt about it was that, if I serve my team, they will serve the purpose of the team. So my
mm,
job is to serve the team so that I enable them to be like the best engineers they can, the best
yeah.
project managers, the best product owners, the best whatever they are doing. They're good at that, and they're reaching for more on those things. My role is to enable that, and then
Yeah,
like
they must
align
have
that
felt
with.
great under your leadership there because they would have felt backed by you all the time, which would have made them feel more confident. And therefore, when someone is more confident, they typically are more successful in anything they're doing. That's brilliant to hear. It's nice to hear how the earlier part of your career was likely the reason you was then like that. If you hadn't have had that leadership experience before that you didn't
Yeah,
enjoy, you may have not been the
yeah.
same leader you was years later. So it sounds like it was
Yeah,
both important parts.
definitely. It definitely was. Like, I had to go through that, I think, to learn what not to do.
Mm,
And yeah, it became a much more satisfying experience for me too. Like, being a leader felt more like I was able to scale and was able to build bigger things. But it wasn't just me, and there wasn't this like pressure for me to be the be all and end all of all decisions and all things.
mm,
I could actually like we could have almost like a group collective,
yeah,
reaching for the same thing, and that was, yeah, a major breakthrough. So that was a very
that's
satisfying period
yeah,
of my career too.
that's nice
Yeah.
to hear. Coming away from your career for a second and talking about hiring journeys. So you've worked for quite a number of different companies along the way. Is there any hiring process that really stands out to you that you felt you could really show who you was and demonstrate who you are?
um Yes, I would say the one that stands out the most is definitely Amazon's recruitment process. That was my first experience at like a multi-round, all-day recruitment process. The different questions that came out were awesome. The different contexts that we spoke in. One was like solve a puzzle. The other one was create a hash table. Like, how would you implement a hash table? And I'd sort of known that, like, for that particular role, Amazon interviews were like this. So I'd done a lot of prep, and I'd worked a lot on like big O notation, and studied up a lot, to get ready for the interviews. And they'd given me hints as well of like stuff they'll cover. But through the process, it was like the most detailed I've ever been in real fundamentals of things, and that was interesting. That was great. I had another round of interviews, and thankfully I got the role, so I was very happy to like get
Good.
that. Um,
Yeah.
and it was great. So the experience was tough, like grueling, but felt really good to come out the other side and give a thumbs up and get it.
Yeah.
I had another interview process with a company with Booking.com. I applied for an engineering role with them, and they use a system called HackerRank, which
Okay.
does like structured tests of your sort of theoretical questions, about data processing and algorithms and all sorts, like really expansive, let's say. That I completely like. I didn't get very far on that. So it was an interesting process. There was great prep and lead up that was given to me, like, and exercises that I could practice. And on the internet, there's loads of stuff where I could sort of brush up on different algorithms and different approaches and implementations. But yeah, the actual testing process itself felt super pressured, so I didn't enjoy that. Like with HackerRank, it was like I had to do almost like an exam, and
Mm,
I had a set amount of time. There was a bunch of questions, and yeah, I have strong feelings about that style, which may be biased by the
yeah.
fact that I didn't get the role. But what I did walk away from that feeling like was, they only gave the side of me that's able to solve algorithmic problems and like mathematical oriented problems, like they only gave that side a chance. Paid no heed to the other parts of me that are what makes me a solutioneer, what makes me a builder.
Yeah.
And so I think it was their loss. Like,
Because their
yes,
process is
yes,
potentially too pressured. Because realistically,
exactly.
yes, we work under pressure, but not pressure like that. So that's why it's interesting to figure out the right way, or a way that is a nice balance in, so someone can feel relaxed enough to perform how they would perform 1 year into the
Yeah.
job. And how about on the other side, Luke? So when you've had to interview people to join your team, so we know you've had a couple of teams, is there anything that a candidate's done that's really impressed you?
Yeah, there was one candidate that I interviewed for a .NET senior engineer role, and we our interview process had a sort of take home homework step as part of it. So you got a piece of homework, you had to build something, and then share your work, and then we would go through it and call you back to walk you through what you'd done. And it was like a simple sort of puzzle, or I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it covered a few things like database access and working with memory and that sort of thing. We really wanted to see people's code, honestly. Like that tells you so much. Like code is like handwriting. It
Yeah.
tells you a lot about, this person's style, their neatness, approach, what they solve for. Do they go wide? Do they go deep? Is it somewhere in between? So we
Mhm.
wanted to see that. That's like a thumbprint. Um, so the exercise itself was kind of, not really the purpose. But this guy had he built a solution. It was fantastic. It looked great. It was, so he'd spent time putting in really like some aesthetic stuff, which he wasn't required to do, but it was just a nice touch. And
Yeah.
yes, when you're given a task to show someone your capabilities, you should show off. You should like do your best, like you really want to impress. But at the same time, it's not a trick question. So we're not like, we don't want like it isn't like a good solution that looks plain and black and white,
Mm.
but does the job is perfectly fine. But yet you still have this opportunity to show off. So what he did was he snuck in an Easter egg, which was another implementation of another puzzle that he'd heard that another team had used as a way to evaluate their hires. And so he just implemented
Mm.
that, like the Towers of Hanoi or something like that, and told us, and then like told us about it and said, hey, well, if you click over here, there's something extra for you to play with. And we thought that was really cool. So that was like
Ah,
that really like reaching for the top.
interesting. And how did it
And
go with him after?
yeah,
Did he manage to
great.
secure the position with your team?
Yes, absolutely. He impressed us all. Yeah, he blew us away
Wicked.
actually. Um, Another thing that the code example gives us is an opportunity to see how the candidate can walk you through what they've done.
Mhm.
So, do they explain, like, have they thought through what they've built? Like if they've made a decision to use this and not that, can they explain the rationale behind it? And it's not to say that one or the other is the right choice. It's more that you understand the trade-offs between going one way or the other, and you made an
Mm.
informed decision about which way to go. That's more what we want to see, is like that critical thinking.
I understand completely. It's part of the hiring process to demonstrate how they think rather than what they've done. You might then learn that they thought about an option that you was thinking they maybe should have done, but their reasons for not doing it could be interesting too. Not necessarily just related to code. What skills do you think have mattered most to you in your career? Yeah.
Good question. Good question. I mean, now with AI, it's such a, that's a very good question. Okay. So if you asked me this question 6 months ago,
Mhm.
I would say, well, all my years of banging away on keyboards and like reading through documentation and like writing this and building that and being in the trenches, digging through logs, like that is what makes me a great programmer, like a great engineer. Um, and, but with AI and coding tools, like who cares how fast you type? Who cares how much of the documentation you remember?
Mhm.
Because the sea level's been raised for all of us. We
Mhm.
can all write code. Anyone can write code. We've got guys, we've got people in our company. who are generating Python out of conversations with Claude to do financial analysis, and it's
It's
great.
crazy, isn't
So
it? It's brilliant.
it's crazy, right? It's crazy,
Yeah,
and then like
yeah.
and they're going through this journey, but in such a different way. But they themselves are qualified accountants or qualified quants. You know, like there's so they've never like this isn't part of their forte of skills, but here they are getting access to such a powerful way to build things. And good. More power to that. Everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to have access to these things. The more, the better. It raises the sea level for everybody.
Mhm,
But at the same time, how do you then define? How do I define myself as an engineer now? Because it's not how
mhm,
fast I type. It's not how many libraries I know. It's not how good I am at Python.
mhm.
I've got to go one level higher and have my competency now needs to be around systems thinking and
It's your thought process now,
being
yeah.
yeah, it's the
Mm,
thought process. It's understanding the problem space. It's understanding the context in which it runs. It understands the suitability of choices that you make, the longevity of the implementation. You know, is it just a once-off? Is it long-term? Like other factors like security and robustness and reliability. And you've got to have. I think those are the skills that will be what matter. Is the understanding of like systems level thinking, design level thinking, and ways to validate that your assumptions are correct. Ways to validate that yes, it is indeed secure, it is
mhm.
indeed stable at this much volume. So yeah, and I'm wrestling with this. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Like,
Yeah,
what do I
I
tell
think
new
what you're
engineers to
saying,
do?
I think, to be honest with you, to summarize your skill set, what shines through, Luke, be your work ethic. Like you mentioned at the start about going through everything. Nowadays, not needing to remember so much, but that work originally made you the engineer you were. And in doing that, gave you the capabilities to think about problems and solutions that someone might not have if they hadn't gone through that. So I feel that that was still a very important step. I think maybe your
Yes.
most important skill now is your way of thinking, ways to maybe to prompt um, next steps for people within your team, you know?
Yeah. And the big thing I keep coming like wrestling with is like how do we impart or how do we help like new engineers entering the space to be enabled with all that? Because what they're not going to do is be like they're not going to have the ground coverage that the engineers of yesterday have, right?
Yeah.
We're all building in a new way now.
Hmm.
So, and luckily for the older guys and older people, like the older people have had all the years to build things by hand,
Yeah.
right, with a
Yeah. Yeah.
keyboard.
Hmm.
But like, so lucky us, you know, but that shouldn't be something that we like just disregard. We've got to say, well, how do we enable what we've learned and how do we crystallize the experience you've got into something that we can give to new entrants into the space that they can also like absorb and
Mm,
utilize those lessons to build their things, because they're the builders
yeah.
that are going to be taking over and building all of the big systems that we need
It's a good
for the
question.
future.
It's a very good question. I think it needs a lot of time to think about the right way of, like you say, putting that together for someone new. It's interesting. I don't know the answer right now, to be fair. That's the
Me neither.
I need a minute.
but the but the answer is not to say don't use AI and you have to write stuff by hand for the next 10 years. That's not the answer.
It's a bit of a Venn diagram to figure out where the right point is for people.
Yeah, agreed. And maybe it just happens like the work's going to get done anyway
Yeah,
and people will figure it out, like whether
yeah,
you're new, whether you're old, whatever, like you've got
mm,
stuff you've got to build and you've got to get in
yeah,
and get it done. So
yeah,
maybe in that process they're like we will observe a new way of unpacking systems
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
that changes
definitely.
everything. Like you know what I mean? Maybe the way
Yeah,
we're thinking about it is completely outdated and wrong,
yeah,
and
yeah.
a whole new framework for this will come out, and that's super exciting.
What is your proudest moment of your career?
Wow. Okay, proudest moment of my career was introducing coming back from Amazon. I was at Amazon, and I came back to a company that I was previously at called Derivco, and I noticed that we were running 24/7 systems, but we had no live feedback loop for everybody, general purpose feedback loop for our live systems. And we had banking gateways, we had services, we had distributed data centers all over the world. We had all these systems that were running 24/7, and the only way that, that we would discover that there was an issue was if there was a customer who picked up that something was wrong and logged a ticket. And I'm generalizing, but uh, there wasn't like this culture of like, guys, what's happening in live? Do we know, and do we get told when it, like, how do we, like, what's the tripwire that gives us that instant feedback of whether it's running or not? And there was just nothing. There wasn't this in place. So no one really knew when systems were live or not. There wasn't really a sense of, is the latest build or release stable in production, except past the installation phase. If the install passed, then that was the handoff, right? That was the end of that was the perimeter of whether it was stable or not, and that's
Right.
just not how live systems work. So
Mm.
I saw this, and I thought back to Amazon, who had a system called PMET, PMET, which is their live metric system, which you can go into, anyone can go into and set up a dashboard to watch any service, under any sort of grouping or you can create a dashboard for anything, and you can
Hmm.
watch whatever service you like. And you can put alarms on the service to let you know when there
Nice.
are certain failures. So if an error rate goes up, or if a latency, a P99 load latency spikes, for example, you can get an email or an alarm. All these things that let you react and take action to fix broken things in production. So
Hmm.
I started on a grassroots mission to get a live metrics service rolled out in the company. It was inspired by, the system implementation was inspired by an Etsy article from years ago, talking about a stack which was a combination of StatsD, a node service, as well as Graphite, which was like a and then a time series database. So a time series database, StatsD plus Graphite, all put together to have a live dashboarding metric system.
Hmm.
I re-implemented StatsD in .NET, and then I worked with some strategic partners internally to help roll out metrics collection endpoints in all of our live hosting locations, and then to get those metrics down into Derivco, into HQ, with dashboards everywhere. And I instrumented everything I could. I went on a roadshow and spoke to as many teams as I could, and made sure that the barrier to entry was really low. So it was like, all you had to do was know where to send your metrics, and they would appear on a dashboard in under a minute. That was it. That's all you
Amazing.
had to do. No permission required.
Hmm.
So we went from the starting volume was about 35,000 metrics per day that were being processed. And then at the end of this, when we reached the system's like end of life, I believe it was something like 50 million data points a day were being processed through the system.
Wow.
And we had some interesting outages as well, where in some cases there was so much volume being logged that we flooded the and it was all over UDP. So we like completely flooded the network of one of our hosting centers. And yeah, there were some cool war stories from that. But today, when you walk around Derivco, you can see dashboards everywhere. Like, you can see graphs and dashboards everywhere. And I mean, it takes a village to make this stuff happen. But I feel like whenever I see dashboards, I feel this like nice, like
Oh,
proud moment that I
yeah,
helped to bring that in.
it's like what you
Yeah.
talked about at the beginning about having the visions and ideas that you follow people have. You had that yourself and you saw it through. So yeah, well done, Luke. That's what an accomplishment. Very good.
Thanks.
Um,
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. Yeah, it was cool to see.
the very last question. What are you excited about next? What's next for Luke?
Ooh, I'm really excited about like AI, building an AI, um, just where it's going. It's just so exciting to be in the space. Someone had a cool someone I read somewhere that someone described AI and the tools like Claude Code and Codex not as replacements for engineers, but as like engineer mech suits. So it feels
Yeah.
like um, at this point in my career where like it's a power up. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know anyone you talk to, anyone I talk to has got a long list of ideas. And
Yeah.
now we're in a place where you can actually start to like build some of those, and it doesn't take long. Like AI can help you speed through an idea and build a quick prototype. And I feel like I feel like at this point in my career, especially in the last like four months, with the release of Opus 4.5 and 4.6 and now 4.7,
Hmm.
that the models have gotten really good. And I have never like I'm building more than I have in the last decade. I feel like I'm just pounding out code, and it's a super satisfying time to be alive.
That is good. That is good. Oh, brilliant. Well, Luke, it's been lovely to speak to you. I actually wish we had longer because I feel like I could ask you a million more questions, but maybe we'll do this again sometime. But yeah, for now, Luke, thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon for sure.
Yeah, you're welcome. Awesome, Kane. So great to catch up and so great to chat, man.
Yeah.